Colombia, violence continues to rise on the eve of legislative elections. Political and social monitoring groups reported the 21st massacre so far in 2022. The United Nations Security Council, at the request of the Russian representation, held an emergency session to address the United States' military biological activities in Ukraine. Venezuela ratified to the European Union its disposition to dialogue and demands the lifting of unilateral sanctions. Hi, this is From the South. I am your news anchor, Dio Martin, from the teleSUR studios in Havana. We begin with the news. In Colombia, violence continues to rise on the eve of legislative elections. Political and social monitoring groups reported the 21st massacre so far in 2022. According to the Institute of Studies for Development and Peace in La Paz, the latest act of violence took place in the village of Bancuarena in the department of Norte de Santander in the northeast of the country, where 4 people were killed. According to In La Paz, among the victims are a local leader and a religious representative who were approached by armed individuals while they were passing by the area. In the midst of this situation, the People's Defender's Office warned about the confinement of several communities in Norte de Santander as a result of the clashes between irregular armed groups. In Brazil, the oil company Petrobras announced an increase in fuel prices. Petrobras announced an 18.8% increase in the price of gas on Friday, whereas diesel rises and is set to hit a 24.9% increase mark. This is the biggest fuel price escalation since January 2021. The mostly state-owned petrol company said in a statement that price increases by other fuel providers have prompted this measure. The executives conveyed that for almost 2 months they managed to not raise the fare, and they recalled that the Brazilian Senate approved a bill to support gasoline prices remain steady through a stabilization fund, as well as an assistance plans for those most affected by the measure. In Argentina, social organizations and LGBTQI+ activists joined relatives and friends of trans young man Tehuel de la Torre as this Friday, March 11th, marks the first anniversary of his disappearance. The collective's outcry 1 year after Tehuel's disappearance also joined the gathering of over 11,000 signatures to endorse a petition that demands to the authorities to use all the resources to find him and asks the media to continue broadcasting Tehuel's case. His family repeatedly denounced the faults in the case, as the Orange Alert was issued 3 months after his disappearance, when it should have been issued 5 days later. What's more, a specialized police body did not carry out the searching activities. His relatives have also denounced that the authorities always assumed Tehuel died, so never assessed the evidence, pondering the possibility of him being alive and kidnapped or restrained. The president of Peru, Pedro Castillo, held a bilateral meeting on Friday with his counterparts from Argentina and Bolivia, Alberto Fernandez and Luis Arce, respectively, as part of his visit to Chile, where he participated in the inauguration ceremony of President Gabriel Boric. During the meeting with Fernandez, both dignitaries discussed several issues of the bilateral agenda, especially referring to health and education. A Peruvian-Argentine social cabinet to strengthen cooperation in these sectors was not ruled out. With his Bolivian counterpart, Castillo addressed the implementation of the energy cooperation agreement signed in 2021 to supply Bolivian LPG to Peruvian populations and connect the Bolivian gas pipeline with the future gas pipeline in southern Peru, as reported Agencia Andina. The campaign of the United States and that country's media has unleashed a real wave of Russophobia, not only against President Vladimir Putin, but more absurdly against the Russian people. Contrary to this situation, in Venezuela, the people assure that they will continue to welcome all Russian citizens. Our correspondent, Marilyn Garcia, gives us more details.
The drums of peace beat in the populous community of St. Augustine in Caracas, the capital of Venezuela. It is the guaguancó flavor which once again embraced the Russian tourists who since September 2021 are visiting the country as part of the bilateral agreement with Russia on tourism.
Bienvenidos, hermanos rusos. Se escuchaba desde los balcones.
Welcome, Russian brothers. One could hear from the balconies. It is the main message at a time when Russophobia has been promoted by the Western media.
Una rusofobia.
And I do not believe in the United States because those people have always waged wars in the name of freedom, in the name of freedom of economy, for so many things. And that is false. They are in it for their own interest, killing. The biggest killers are the United States in different countries of the world. This tour goes beyond the exchange of cultures. It is the feeling, the warmth and the color of the Venezuelan people who has suffered the illegal sanctions of the United States that are now also imposed on Russia.
Main Russophobia sees all over the world. The media wants to become a big court, but a court of lies, a court of falsity. It is a simply media campaign that tries to undermine the profound truth that the Russian people are taking on today, which is to fight against racism, to fight against this fascist enclave that has tormented, raped, and mutilated the community of Donbass. So may the aggression against the Russian people stop, that racism stop and Russophobia as well.
Russia has been sanctioned by the United States and its ally. Its planes are not allowed to fly over Europe, but the operation will not stop. Flights are going to increase to and from Venezuela. Now with the Venezuelan state airline Conviasa, cooperation is intact.
Russia Airlines flights are suspended. They have requested for 7 flights a week, and we are working from now, starting on April 1st, to have 3 flights a week, direct from Moscow to Port Lamar, apart from the regular flight from Moscow to Maiquetía, which is every 15 days and will increase in number soon.
In almost 6 months, more than 50,000 Russian tourists have come to Venezuela. The goal is to reach 12,000 monthly.
Madeline García, teleSUR, Caracas, Venezuela.
We're going to take a short break now. Please join us again after this. Hi and welcome back to From the South. The United Nations Security Council, at the request of the Russian representation, held an emergency session to address the United States' military biological activities in Ukraine. The meeting requested by the Russian Federation comes at the same time as the reported discovery of 30 biological laboratories on Ukrainian territory, which were in the middle of a dismantling process covered up by the authorities in Kiev. In this regard, the Russian ambassador Vasily Nebenzia warned European countries about the threat of an outbreak of a biological agent in the region from laboratories in Ukraine.
Today, because as Russia is conducting a special military operation in Ukraine, we discovered truly shocking facts of an emergency cleanup by the Kiev regime of the traces of a military operation program, which is being implemented by Kiev with the support of the United States Ministry of Defense.
Russian ambassador to the United Nations Vasily Nebenzia also reminded how risky the spread of bioagents across the continent is, precisely taking into account the impact of coronavirus in the region. The diplomat stressed that discovery of some 30 U.S.-funded biological laboratories in Ukraine should not be taken lightly.
From Europe separately. Right next to the European Union, you have had an experimental platform for extremely dangerous biological trials, and we call upon you to think about a very real biological danger to the people in European countries, which can result from a controlled spread of bioagents from Ukraine, which, as we have seen in COVID-19, is possible to stop. And if there is such a scenario, then all Europe will be covered by it.
United States President Joe Biden signed a new executive order on Friday banning U.S. citizens from investing or doing business with Russian companies. The new extraterritorial measure from Washington prohibits certain imports, exports, and new investments, sales, and supplies from the United States to Russia, and also applies to all U.S. citizens regardless of their location or country of residence. The initiative forbids as well any payments in U.S. dollars and cash to the government of Russia or to any person or institution located on Russian territory. The document includes a list of banned Russian import items, including, among others, fish, seafood, alcoholic beverages, and luxury goods. And the United States will provide Ukraine with a $14 billion aid package, which includes military supplies and humanitarian assistance. The funding approved by the U.S. Senate on Thursday is more than twice the amount originally considered that was already submitted to President Joe Biden for its implementation. The whole process took less than 2 days after its approval by the House of Representatives. A United States media outlet reported that as of last December, Washington has increased its shipments of weapons to Kiev, while Vice President Kamala Harris confirmed Thursday the deployment of 2 anti-ballistic missile batteries to Poland. On Friday, at a televised briefing, the Russian Defense Ministry released several statements concerning refugees from Ukraine and weapons used by Ukrainian soldiers. National Defense Command Center head Mikhail Mizintsev addressed the issue of people in Ukraine who could seek refuge in the Russian Federation. The commander stated the Ukrainian government continues to categorically refuse humanitarian corridors towards Russia, stating that there are no civilians and foreign citizens wishing to enter the territory of the Russian Federation, calling it cynical cheating. As it said, Defense Ministry spokesperson Major General Igor Konashenkov made statements that Russian service members were seizing large numbers of man-portable air defense weaponry.
Past 24 hours a decision to take shelter on the territory of the Russian Federation from the terror and arbitrariness from Ukrainian nationalists has been expressed by 23,170 people. All in all, there are now 2,619,26 people looking for shelter in Russia. Russian service members are capturing a large amount of main portable air defense systems of different types in the course of successful offensive operation against Ukrainian nationalists. This way, in the Kherson region, more IGLA air defense systems, Ukrainian nationalists left these systems behind along with other weaponry and ammunition, while quickly returning from their positions.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Belarusian counterpart Alexander Lukashenko announced that they will maintain their bilateral cooperation in order to face the sanctions imposed by some Western countries against their own. Our correspondent Odette Diaz from Moscow gives us more details.
Thanks for the contact. Indeed, Russian President Vladimir Putin expressed his confidence that his country and Belarus will benefit after overcoming the difficulties caused by the punitive measures implemented by the West against both countries. During talks in the Kremlin with his Belarusian counterpart, Alexander Lukashenko, the Russian president reminded that the former Soviet Union suffered many sanctions over decades, and yet it developed and achieved great success. The head of the state commented that attempts to limit the development of Russia and to contain it have always been made and are being made now, although he acknowledged that at the moment it is on a larger scale. Putin pointed out that the implemented measures are causing a massive blow to the national economy. However, he stressed that as a result of the current situation, both countries will gain more skills, more opportunities to feel independent, self-sufficient, and will benefit as in previous years. Regarding the latest events, Lukashenko said that Ukraine would have attacked Belarus if Russia had not launched a preventive operation, to which the president said he had clear conscience because they did not start a war. According to the Belarusian president, people are gradually beginning to understand who is who and behind whom lies the truth. In his opinion, if Moscow had not launched a military operation at this time, huge losses would have been registered now because the Ukrainians wanted to attack not only Donbas, for which he said there is no need to make excuses to anyone. Lukashenko warned that Foreign mercenaries in Ukraine are moving along the border towards the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, seeking to drag Belarus into the hostilities. Up to here, some details on this subject. Now we return the signal.
We have more news coming up after a final short break. Please stay with us. Hi and welcome back. Venezuela ratified to the European Union its disposition for dialogue and demanded the lifting of unilateral sanctions. In Turkey, Venezuela's Foreign Minister Felix Plasencia held a meeting with the High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Josep Borrell, in the city of Antalya on Saturday during the second diplomatic forum that transpired in that Turkish city. In the meeting, Plasencia reaffirmed Venezuela's demands to lift the unilateral coercive measures of fundamental rights of the Bolivarian people. Talks between Plasencia and Borrell transpired in the context of this second diplomatic forum in Antalya, which will be in session until Sunday, March 13th, under the slogan "Codification of Diplomacy." On Friday, at the second Antalya Diplomacy Forum, the Venezuelan Vice President engaged in an interview with the Lebanese-British journalist Kira, in which Deisy Rodrguez emphasized that relations with the United States cannot be conditioned. They must go through a diplomatic path.
We understand that initial approach cannot be conditioned. Of course not. And these initial contacts started with the framework of the bilateral relations. So this is just the beginning. Let's see if in the framework of diplomacy and constructive dialogue we can move forward. However, as we are concerned,
The Venezuelan diplomat also said sanctions are contrary to international law and what the United Nations Charter stipulates. She stressed that every nation must defend the law of reason, of justice.
Venezuela, together with other countries, we created the group of friends of the UN Charter. Because, as I said in my introduction, every day there's more multilateralism, less multilateralism and more unilateralism. The imposition of UCM contrary to international law. Therefore, this is part of our existence, the continuous defense of law. Because without law, it is the law of the strongest? No, it should be the law of reason, of justice, of law that should impose, and not the law of the forest, of the wilderness.
The international community has pinned high hopes on the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference and the National People's Congress to inject stability and vitality into the global economic recovery. International experts highlight the boost that the Asian giant is giving to the world with its sustainable economic development policies and respect for the environment. Doug Barry, Senior Director of Communications and Publications for the U.S.-China Business Council, said that China's Belt and Road Initiative injected lasting green energy into the development of the global economy, making it easier for developing countries to build clean facilities. Ignacio Martinez, a researcher with the Center for International Relations at the National Autonomous University of Mexico, UNAM, noted the importance of the two sessions for the future development of China as a guideline. China, Shanghai and Beijing residents tested for COVID amid the biggest surge in 2 years. Residents in Shanghai and Beijing queued to test for COVID-19 as China reported its highest daily total of coronavirus cases in 2 years on Friday. Authorities in other cities carried out targeted lockdowns and mass testings to halt the highly transmissible Omicron variant. Shanghai Mayor Gong Sheng said it is necessary to take accurate and effective prevention and control measures, track down the source and do screening work deeply and thoroughly, scientifically and accurately to limit close contact. Iran accepted to a pause in the Vienna talks aimed at reviving the 2015 nuclear agreement that the U.S. broke with its unilateral exit in 2018. Iranian Foreign Affairs Ministry spokesman Saeed Jadibzadeh said that his country willingly accepts the pause suggested by the European Union under nuclear talks, saying it may help pave the way in resolving pending issues. Iran's Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdollahian said that an agreement in the Vienna negotiations that was within reach, provided the United States behaved realistically and in a coherent manner. Meanwhile, the European coordinator of the negotiations on the Comprehensive Joint Plan of Action, PAC, Josep Borrell, said a final document is essentially ready and on the table. On Friday, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa and his counterpart of Mozambique, Filipe Nyusi, met in Pretoria. The neighbors discussed regional security, including the insurgency in Mozambique's Cabo Delgado province, as well as Cyclone Goe, which is battering the north of the country.
That confronts the government and the people of Mozambique in the Cabo Delgado area is not different. We will face it together as we are now through the SADC umbrella with the same determination, certain that the forces of democracy and peace will be victorious. Our countries share similar views on the need to reform the United Nations Security Council to make it an organ that is representative in the interests of peace, and where the African continent can have a voice. South Africa fully supports Mozambique's candidature for a non-permanent seat at the UN Security Council.
At the moment, we are monitoring another tropical cyclone called Gombe. It is already in the northern part of the country, in the provinces of Nampula and Zambezia. In particular, we want to hail the government for its support to launch the CDC force, CAMIM, to combat terrorism in Cabo Delgado province, including humanitarian support.
We've come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find these and many other stories on our website at teleSUR English. You can also join us on social media for all the latest news. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For teleSUR English, I'm Dio Martin. Thanks for watching.